Hello and welcome back to Techweek TV. We're here at Callaghan Innovation on Quay Street in Auckland for day 5 of Techweek TV. My name is Jake Miller, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Unfiltered, and today it's my enormous honour to be hosting this session on the essentials for startups. It's all about how the world of how professional services and different industries are interacting with startups to truly drive an experience for those companies. And we have some amazing leaders joining us today to talk about what they're doing in this space. We have Venetia, the co-founder of Sprout NZ, so thank you so much, Venetia, for being here. We have Nurin from 1HQ, which is a brand new startup that just launched only a few months back now, that's absolutely taking off.
That's right.
Yeah, which is super cool, doing a lot of M&A and pulling together this kind of one-stop shop for startups. And we also have James from StoryTech, who's a phenomenal entrepreneur that's been working on some really exciting stuff. So to kick this off, I was thinking of, I'll just pass across to James, and he's going to show us, explain a little bit more about what StoryTech does, and then take us through a video. Then we have 2 short presentations from Venetia and from Nurin, and then we'll go into some questions from there. So over to you, James.
Thanks, Jake. So StoryTech is a brand strategy development platform for startups and small businesses. One of the essentials, I think, in any startup is being able to really clearly articulate your story, right? What you do, how you do it, why you do it, how you're different from others. And so often that elevator pitch is actually a really hard thing to crack for a business, especially in its early stages. I come from a brand strategy background, and what I've done with StoryTech is take a process that would normally be a process that costs in the tens of thousands of dollars to go through a consultancy or an agency, put that onto a platform in a day workshop format, led by a video version of me taking you through a process to crack your brand story and a strategy for how to tell it in one day for $500. So it's really aiming to make access to a great story much easier and just radically cheaper than how that's currently delivered. So we've got a video that'll show through kind of how the process works with StoryTech.
Great.
StoryTech is a one-day online workshop that teams use to build a world-class story for their brand. Teams gather at their place on a day of their choice and spend the day completing the 3 StoryTech canvases. Videos of James introduce them to and guide them through each section. They complete workshop exercises guided by tips, case study examples, and workshop materials. Then, they enter their content into the StoryTech platform, populating their canvases as they go. This content is then brought together in a fill-in-the-blanks narrative structure, creating a concise story that captures the brand's purpose, value proposition, ambition, and history. Then, teams work up a to-do list of ways to tell their story and ensure it's being heard by customers. At the end of the day, teams have 3 completed canvases that capture their story and their strategy to get out and tell it.
So very cool, yeah. And how did you first come up, because I know you've got a long history in the creative fields, but how did you first decide to, as someone that's in creative, obviously people would think that to go out and charge the $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 to do a brand might be the best approach. But at what point did you say, I'm going to try and do this in a way that's affordable for businesses and build something more scalable as well?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think we're, all of us, right, and probably in the audience out there, and certainly on this panel, is kind of really passionate about startup businesses. Those companies that have a great idea and a huge vision, and often not very much money to kind of go out and execute that idea with. So we were, really frustrated at how few startups we could actually help with our kind of consulting model in our venture studio. So it was really a case of going, how do we make what we do much more accessible to a much broader range of companies, both in New Zealand and overseas, and really make sure that the companies that we were kind of passionate about could really arm themselves with a great story. I think startups are way better at creating a world-changing product than they are at convincing the world to let them change it. And so that's what we really want to kind of help with.
That's really cool. And StoryTech's one part of what you do, previously unavailable, the venture studio you refer to. Do you tell the viewers a little bit more about that and how that works as well?
Sure. Previously unavailable is a venture studio. We work across a range of ventures, from corporate joint venture projects where we partner with large companies companies to help them create new products or move into new kind of areas of business. Startups as smaller companies where we help them kind of usually come into the world in the best possible way through helping them with their product and customer experience and brand. And we have a couple of our own venture projects which are wholly owned companies of our own. Toothbrush, which is a bamboo toothbrush subscription service, and Storytech.
That's awesome. Venetia, I'd love to hear more about what you do as well, and I know you've got a presentation to take us through, so look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, sure. So we are a business that specialises in people, essentially. We sit across a little bit of HR, a little bit of management consultancy, and a little bit of recruitment. And essentially, kind of similar to James, we really wanted to build our business to support high growth startups or scaling organisations to sustainably grow and really plan around people. But we've got a little bit of a presentation and a video that will kind of explain that quite well.
It's really important to us that we do understand the business, that we act as an extension to their business, and so really helping them understand why they're hiring for a start. Do they need to hire? What are their growth ambitions basically, and is hiring this particular role in line with that? Because sometimes it's not, and we've even had situations where businesses have perhaps even downsized, right, as a result of actually sitting down with us and having what we call a clarity workshop, right, and just doing a bit of a reset. We're all about, I guess, having meaning and purpose and understanding why it is that we do what we do to be able to build a more prosperous and productive New Zealand. And because of that, it makes, I guess, attracting the right people to those businesses that want to be part of some of these emerging businesses that are doing things even on the global front, because a lot of people look at obviously your hard skills or your technical skills and qualifications, but I think where the key is in terms of sustainability and how motivated they are when they're in their role, and how engaged they are, will be more on the soft skills side, and when they actually feel connected to what they're doing and connected to the impact of the business and the organisation, and that how that aligns with who they are as a person. If you're a startup or scaling Kiwi business looking to attract, engage or retain the best people for your business who are aligned to what you want to achieve, call us at Sprout. We'd love to help.
Very, very cool. It's the collision of these worlds that I was researching for this interview in terms of creating clarity on the direction of your business, finding the best talent available, then working with that workforce to kind of drive engagement and so on as well. How did you first get into this space?
We've got I suppose a collective of directors that are part of Sprout, and we all come from recruitment backgrounds and traditionally from the corporate world.
Yes.
I think we just had this passion, exactly as James said, around really wanting to support Kiwi businesses to be successful, and I think we just didn't feel that the current models that were out there were really going to add value to that startup space, and so we just essentially came to market thinking, right, how are we going to actually add some true value? What do people need? What can they actually afford? And what do they need to really grow from a people perspective?
Yeah. What was the single biggest thing that was broken about recruitment when you went into this?
Really the value add. I think people should expect more around what a recruitment partner can do, particularly around kind of, first of all, looking at the planning piece, which is really around how are you going to grow, what does it look like, what does your workforce look like, what's the best way to do it in a sustainable way, then the actual recruitment, so sourcing the person and attracting that person to your brand, particularly coming to a startup. And then the third piece is really around that retention and growth.
Yes.
So getting the most out of your current team and looking at productivity and keeping them connected to the business as you scale.
Yeah, because you can spend a lot of money and time hiring someone, but if they don't stick around or they don't buy into the purpose or feel included in that purpose, then you just waste a lot of money and everybody's time, right? Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, well, I've got a couple of questions to come back to soon, but just before I'll pass over to Nurin from 1HQ to take us through his presentation.
Thanks, Jake. So I might grab that clicker of you actually, just so I can. So 1HQ is obviously a very new business, one of a kind of in Auckland and New Zealand. So we haven't seen anything very similar yet, but basically what we're trying to roll up is a whole lot of different professional services that can service small businesses, medium businesses, and startups essentially. But what so we were originally an accounting firm and like IT business, lending and advisory. But what we're trying to do is simplify business and give them one point of contact, so we can kind of wrap ourselves around a startup business and actually deliver, you know, to help them meet their goals. A lot of businesses struggle like with cash flow. You know, like Sprout's obviously saving the people problem. So yeah, it's quite a new style of approach in terms of how we can help businesses. So we've kind of been on that journey. It's only a couple of months old, but yeah. So I strongly believe like these kind of businesses, you know, if you've got a people issue, you've got a cash flow issue, and basically the traditional accounting business at the moment is set up to service your tax return and kind of help IRD get some of the information they need. But I truly believe that if we can kind of work it with a business and increase their kind of profit or increase their revenue by 10% every year, then the IRD is going to win, the business is going to win, our economy is going to win. So we're kind of approaching it a little bit different and making sure the purpose and the vision of the business is aligned to what they're trying to do in their personal life as well. So yeah, so that's just kind of One HQ. I guess it's kind of very new, and we're just trying to bring all the experts and professionals together to help small businesses.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating story. One of my best friends, one of the founders of One HQ, Harry Ferreira, he's a great guy, and he, you know, I've learned a lot about the business through him, and I'm just keen for you to explain a little bit more about the journey from, you know, a bunch of guys and girls coming together and you know, where it is today, because in a short space of time, my understanding is you've done a lot of M&A, you've acquired a lot of companies, and you've grown pretty quick. Yeah,
so personally very scary exercise, you know, you can spend 6 years building a business on your own. When me and my brother did it, and then you got the other guys from the Aotearoa Adventure boys who have kind of experience in bringing business together. But the critical thing was bringing the accounting, IT together and making sure the people were the right thing. So, you know, kind of what Manish is saying is, you know, I think one of the things Harry said to me was, and kind of resonated with me, is no dickhead policy, which is kind of, you know, it's quite exciting to kind of work with people that are real and quite experienced as well. So, yeah.
No, that's awesome. And yeah, pulling across from what all you said, maybe starting with you, Venetia, like what is the biggest, I guess, disruption or changes you're noticing in kind of the business services sector today? What are, from an entrepreneur's perspective and also from a small business perspective, what do people want that's different?
I think it's really, when I look at a small business, it's really the ability to provide kind of some deep and meaningful advice. And I think Niran made that point about kind of wrapping yourself around the business. So rather than having this transactional relationship with lots and lots of different suppliers, I think, you know, small businesses and startups just want a trusted advisor, you know, someone that they know is kind of backing them and is there to kind of experience their story and their journey with them, which is why, you know, our approach is really around kind of just embedding ourselves and almost being an extension of their business when it comes to people.
Yeah, just throwing a sort of contrarian question as such out there. If you think about some of the world's great brands that have really lasted the test of time, brands like Rolex and so on that specialise in one thing and do it really, really well, how do you ensure that the quality of what you're doing, you know, maintains and is at the highest level if you are across so many different fields, if that makes sense? Yeah, I'd love your opinion on that, Niran, because I know the vision with One HQ is to roll up sort of so many different sectors, from IT to legal to accounting, which is super exciting. My question is just how do you ensure that you can be the best in all of those fields?
Yeah,
when
so
you do have boutique players.
Very good point. But I guess the main thing is the one point of contact, right? So you may come through the accountant, you may come through the lending, you know, division, but I guess we can lead with the thing that you need very most right now. So if you need an accountant, we give you an accountant, but if you need some capital, then we can push you into the lending department. But we kind of work with our internal team, so we've had a relationship in the past where it's a referral type relationship, and you can never really, you know, control the quality or the actual experience or the expertise or the value that they're getting out of that. So now it's kind of like, hey, look, if you need some capital, go talk to Harry, and I know Harry's going to look after him because he's got the right experience, and vice versa.
Having the right partners.
That's right. And so, and kind of, yeah, like I keep saying, wrapping yourself around that client because they really need your support. And, you know, they might have some startup capital and they run out of that really quickly. At least if the accountant, we've got the knowledge and we know and we can see everything. So that kind of helps as well.
Absolutely. And James, with Storytech, you know, was it as simple as kind of creating this like information product where you presumably spend a lot of time researching about, you know, what startups want, and from all of your knowledge and expertise, then putting it together and then really just doing some AdWords and some Facebook advertising and selling as many as possible? Or are you continually to kind of iterate the product and listen as people give you feedback?
You make it sound very easy. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it has been built out of our understanding both of running our own startups and of working with lots of startups and sort of understanding where, you know, startups really operate on a lack of abundance in some really clear areas, right? Startups have a lack of abundance of cash, you know, so when you're developing for startups, how do you make things not only really affordable, but how do you create a really super clear value proposition, because every dollar they need to see the return on that. They have a lack of abundance of time because they're running across kind of every discipline, from finance to accounting to HR to marketing to sales to operations, you know, the whole gamut. And they have a very limited amount of time to spend on each of those kind of areas. And they have a lack of abundance of expertise, because again, they're kind of running across all of these areas. Most founders have a deep expertise in one thing and a shallow expertise in everything else. So when you're developing something for a startup, it's really important to develop it with someone who doesn't have a lot of expertise in that area in mind, right? So you're giving them the basics, safe in the knowledge that they're probably smart enough to take those basics and run really fast with them. So I think as we develop Storytech, you know, Storytech's been developed in just that way, to be really affordable, to be really, really really quick and really respectful of time, and to be pitched at someone who can have no marketing experience whatsoever, but can really use Storytech as a very productive way to kind of get to a clearer, better story for their business.
Yeah, and what's one of the most humbling examples that's come out of Storytech for you in terms of a business that's gone through your course and truly transformed what they do? Obviously early days, but... Yeah,
totally, it's early days, but I think one of the coolest stories, so we've been working with NZTE, they've put a bunch of their clients through Storytech already. They called one back a month after they'd gone through the Storytech process, and you know, they said two things. One, they'd had a group of people in the room who were normally very skeptical about marketing and about brand and considered all that stuff pretty fluffy, and even those people in the room felt really great about the process. Secondly, they said a month later they had moved into a new office space, and they had never thought to think about how they design their space to articulate their story and their brand and what they're about. And they had totally rethought the way that they designed their space based on those Storytech outputs. They had a clearer sense of self, of who they really were, and they said, you know what, we can create an environment that really speaks to that. And so I think those sort of things, like to marketers, you'd naturally think, how do we do our environment in a way that's on brand? For people that aren't marketers, that's kind of a revelationary bit of information that you can think in that way. So I think I love those stories that are coming back of people, they've taken on the principles, and it's really changed the way that they think of, you know, many different aspects in their business, not just the sort of advertising or marketing parts.
Yeah, and just very briefly, what brand have you created that are you most proud of in life?
Oh man, now you're asking me to pick favourite babies. I can't pick a favourite baby. Oh look.
Or maybe the impact that brand had is something that humbles you the most.
Oh yeah, I mean, okay, I'll pick a most recent one. So we developed the brand and the customer experience for Simplicity KiwiSaver.
Okay.
You know, Simplicity are doing an amazing thing by taking, you know, they're a non-profit KiwiSaver provider. They will make you, by taking the margin that the banks take away from you on KiwiSaver, they will give you 20% more income in your retirement. It's a total no-brainer. Everyone should be, it's crazy to be in another KiwiSaver scheme. Everyone should be with Simplicity, and we're kind of really proud to have been part of that journey and doing something that's genuinely, like this is going to make a huge difference to our country and you know, the experience that a lot of us have in our retirement.
Great, thank you. And Venetia, I'm just keen to understand, you mentioned before how when you started this business and you were sort of adapting to working with startups, it was all about, you know, how can we add more value? Like how would you uniquely describe, you know, the biggest differences? Obviously there's that bit there about the future and actually retaining that talent, but in terms of the actual recruitment process, I think it's something that every founder struggles with, is like going through that process of trying to find the best people. How do you help, and what advice do you have to founders about attracting the very best people in the world?
Yeah, it's a really good question. One of the things that we do differently, and I certainly do differently, is really actually starting at the beginning. So going back and just getting some true clarity around what's the actual ambition You know, what are you trying to work towards, and what does success actually look like, and planning for that success.
Yes.
I think sometimes we find businesses are successful on purpose or successful by accident, and we really want to promote the successful by purpose, because that can be replicated and that can grow. So we really go right back to actually understanding, why do you want to recruit, and do you need to recruit, and actually are there better ways of doing this? Is it better to outsource? So it's actually challenging the business first of all. If it becomes recruitment, then we can source that. And the last piece is really around actually looking at your current business and the talent that's there, and actually are you getting the most out of that existing structure as well. So it's very different to probably how I'd operated under a more of a traditional model.
Yeah. What's your favourite question to ask someone in a job interview?
In a job interview, oh my goodness, that's a really good question. I guess it's just understanding their why.
Yeah.
You know, what is it about? I think people get really connected to a business because of its purpose, and that will keep them in the business if they're connected.
Yeah.
So actually just understanding what motivates people and what drives people, it's just amazing. Like, we're so fortunate that we get to meet some incredible people.
Yeah, and what are the biggest changes you're noticing today in terms of why people stay around in an organisation? How is the world evolving, and how are the motivations of people evolving?
Yeah, there's definitely a shift when people are coming to us saying, I'm looking for a new role, and often there is a conversation around, I need to feel kind of connected, I need to feel that there's a purpose, I need to understand the story. There's just so much more now to what's the salary, and is there a car park? You know, there's so much more depth to why people want to be part of a business.
Exactly, yeah. And just finally, Naren, you know, what are some of the challenges you're noticing in terms of, you know, adapting your, you know, all of these experiences? Because guys like Harry have come from head of small business at the Bank of New Zealand, and Chris, who was head of, I believe, business development at KPMG. You know, some big sector kind of founders here, bringing that together to actually help work on startups. What are the biggest challenges around adapting from people that have previously served, you know, big clients through to startups?
Yeah, I think if we look internally, the biggest challenge for us is around that getting the right accountant, because we've got a different structure in place where we can help someone from admin, bookkeeping, accounting, lending, you know, and kind of looking for the right type of people, and these people aren't really out there, they don't exist. So if we look at a traditional accounting firm, we can get a traditional accountant, but we're actually looking for a modern accountant that can work across our business. So we're on the massive hunt at the moment for the right people. So that's kind of been one of our biggest challenges. The immediate one is our recruitment, which is a great problem because we've got so much work, and you know, we just need the right people to help us fill these gaps. So.
How many people do you have today?
So on day one, I think we're 40, potentially 45, and we're looking to grow that really, really rapidly over the next sort of 5 years. So a very clear plan in place. So. Yeah, hopefully we'll be doubling in people size in no time.
Okay, it's an exciting time. And just before we finish, guys, a question for all of you, as you know, people working with startups, you know, in various sectors. I just love like one piece of advice that you would pass on to, you know, people that are wanting to or thinking about going out and starting something, about the realities of starting a business, maybe starting a new Venetia. Like, what would you say is a piece of advice that you would pass on?
I think my biggest advice would be to plan with, you know, what if I'm successful? So to keep that in mind and actually really plan your business, your cash flow, your resourcing around that. I think sometimes we meet people that are just struggling to survive and just planning for today and tomorrow, but really to think about the bigger picture.
Absolutely, yeah. Simon? Sorry, James, apologies.
Yeah, I think, you know, finding something that you're personally connected to. I think it's really easy sometimes to see a commercial opportunity somewhere that you know you feel like you could become passionate about. But I think it's when you're in a business, I think like we all are, that you've actually spent a lot of time in before you're truly passionate about, and it's delivering that passion in a new, innovative way. I think that's where the sweet spot is. That's where, you know, founders find the greatest sense of kind of purpose and kind of, you know, delight in what they do.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
For me, it's got to be around the purpose and the vision as well, and getting alignment right at that top level. So making sure everyone knows where they're going. If you're going in two different directions, it's really hard. So kind of getting that alignment, and then kind of building a team around that plan. So whether it be people, brand, you know, like you don't need to have all these people inside your business. You can outsource some of these functions. It's kind of why 1HQ has been created, so you can outsource a lot of the different departments that you don't want to hire for.
Yes.
So you're getting it really right from the top, and then kind of going from there is probably my best piece of value advice.
Awesome advice. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Venetia. Thank you, James. Thank you guys so much for taking the time for being here. And there's so much great advice, and it's such an exciting space. And I think everything you're all doing in this space to really help startups, start and scale is truly exciting. So thanks for coming in and taking the time to share some advice.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks,
great. And thank you so much to the viewers on Techweek TV for tuning in from around the country. We've had thousands of viewers tuning in today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days to be here as well, and we look forward to staying with you throughout the day. We're going to be here filming at Callahan Innovation in Auckland all day, so stay with us. Thank you so much.